What's up, Warriors fans, and welcome back to Warriors Latest. As always, I am your host, Max Arizin. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you enjoy the show today, as I do post new Warriors videos daily, and it does help the show continue to grow as the season moves along. Now, last night was a tough one for the Warriors, both for the team and myself, because I watched that game, and it was great to watch through the first half. But it was tough to watch in the second half as that second unit that was starting really collapsed. And I think that was mostly due to the fact that Russ went off for a triple-double. Let's look, what was it? He had 23 points, 16 rebounds to go along with 10 assists and a steal and only 3 turnovers. And he was 9 for 13 from the field. So in games like that, especially against one of the top 75 greatest players of all time, it's hard to beat regardless of how hard your guys are playing and acting like true starters. That being said, I think through the first half, it's a good sign that the Warriors were able to keep things under control and keep a solid lead going through the first quarter and then through the end of the second quarter. Now, we all saw that during the beginning of the third quarter, things began to fall apart a little bit, and it got close, and then during the third, the Kings took over. Warriors ended up fighting back, tied it for a sec, but then the Kings went off and took complete control to end the game. Now, again, this Warriors team was without Jimmy. They were without Draymond, and they were without Steph. So you got to take this entire game with a grain of salt. And I think, like I said, I think they played well. But when you're playing against a team that has Russ, Zach LaVine, and DeMar DeRozan to go along with like DeMontis, who wasn't playing last night, you're going to have a tough time. As I have said before, this Kings team is a very dark horse team. They have guys that fit in each of the starter positions, especially now that they have Precious Achimwa filling in for Keegan Murray at the 4. And Precious is a very physical 4 that's going to do well against some of those lighter 4s or those smaller 4s like Jonathan Kuminga. Now, Kuminga also had a great game, and I did like his leadership during the first half. Now, while the leadership didn't continue through the second half, I am happy to say that, you know what, he contributed on offense with 24 points and 9 rebounds. He almost had a double-double. So I'll take that win and take that silver lining going into the next few games as the Warriors get Draymond back, Jimmy, and Steph back, as I don't anticipate them being out for a long time. Quentin Post, he didn't have the best game, but I feel like his presence was shown as they had that organic lineup, which had a lot of synergy in the first half that I really hadn't seen these past few games with Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy in the lineup. Now, at the 1, it was Pods. At the 2, it was Will Richards. At the 3, it was Kuminga. At the 4, it was Horford. And at the 5, it was Quentin Post. I did like to see that. I did like how in control they were, but they couldn't keep it going because of how inexperienced they were. That being said, we did get an ultimate green flag from one player, specifically Will Richard. Now, Will Richard hit 30 points last night after playing 35 minutes. And looking at his numbers, 30 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and 10 for 15 from the field. And that's to go along with 5 for 8 from 3 and 5 for 7 at the line. Now, he was only a +1 on the plus-minus, but I take that with a grain of salt. He had 3 fouls. You should be able to use a few fouls. But looking at that, it just goes to show that he's a force to be reckoned with. He is a guy. There's a reason they signed him to a 4-year full rookie minimum deal. And with that said, it's going to start bringing up questions. Now, we know the Warriors' issue in the middle is going to be a persistent problem. And with the likes of Will Richards having games like these, I think it reinforces the idea that, all right, maybe it's time to move off of Buddy Hield or move off of Moses Moody or move off some of their more tradable players during the early parts of the season so they don't let the schedule get out of hand. And next thing you know, they lose 3 to 4 or even 5 straight, and they aren't championship contenders. So they, again, have to do something to show that they want to win an NBA title. Because right now, I think they're hot. I think they have momentum. But they still have pieces that they do need to add before they can really compete with the likes of the Spurs, with the likes of the Thunder, with the likes of, excuse me, a bit of a sore throat, but the likes of the Rockets, and so on. Because those guys are going to be tough to beat when you don't have a physical presence in the middle. Now, when you have tradable contracts like Moody and Hield, you have options. Like I said, Nikolai Vucevic over and over and over again. He's a guy that can be a great part of a winning roster. Now, unfortunately, the odds of him going back on the block aren't that great right now because of how well the Bulls are doing. I believe Vucevic hit a very big shot from 3 to help seal the Bulls' win the other day. I can't remember if it was yesterday or a couple days before, but it's unlikely that they're going to trade him after getting off to this hot start. Now, if they do cool off by the end of the month and going into December, I could see the Warriors make that trade. But as of right now, it's time to cut bait on certain players who aren't really playing for the team. And by that, I mean DeAnthony Melton. Those roster spots are essential. And maybe whether that be trading DeAnthony Melton, whether that be just finding a place to put him, they need to do something with him because he's obviously not going to be a factor with this Warriors team, and he's going to take minutes away from the likes of Will Richard, Moses Moody, who probably will get traded, as well as Pods, whose option was just picked up last week. So we need to see the Warriors do something to make additions to this roster. Because right now, I'm still on the fence about them. I thought that hot start was very great. How they did during the preseason was very great. But when you have games where all 3 of their stars are out and their second unit isn't able to make that, keep that momentum going through 4 quarters, that's going to be a problem in the postseason, especially when you're playing these good teams that are very deep. And teams like the Kings, they're pretty deep. I don't care what you say. They are a very strong dark horse team, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with come January, February, and March. So they got to do something about that because Will Richards, he's a guy that's here, and he's here to stay for the long term. They got him for 4 years, and if you got him for 4 years, he's going to be part of that next unit or that next phase with the Warriors to go along with Jonathan Kuminga. So if you want to maximize Steph's time, the time is now. And making a deal right now to bringing another big in is going to be essential. Now, on a different note, yesterday was also very interesting because a number of NBA officials were called down to D.C. in regards to the arrests and charges against Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier. Now, I think this is really the tip of the iceberg, especially after it's like you're not fixing games, but you're letting inside information out. Now, having worked in the league before, you do sign a contract that says you will not give inside information out. And now, according to all the podcasts, according to all the news that's coming out, stuff like this is the big tip of the iceberg, and people are going to be held accountable. And it's not just the likes of the players, it's going to be the league as well. This meeting with members of Congress with NBA leaders was just the first step. I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to subpoena Adam Silver. They're going to subpoena guys to testify before Congress to say, did you know about this cheating? Did you have any anticipation of this potentially happening? Did you do anything to protect the players from these kinds of things? Because I don't think they did. They just saw the opportunity of legalized gambling and dollar signs came to their eyes. And you got to have these level of protections. And these level of protections are going to, these congressional hearings that are going to happen. They might not happen right away, but they're going to happen. They're going to lead to a extreme decrease of revenue as deals get broken between sports books and the incoming leagues. And this isn't just going to affect the NBA. This is going to affect all the sports leagues, because they're going to look at this and say, if it's happening here, how do we know it's not happening in the MLB? How do we know it's not happening in the NFL? Because they're really combining it, like they're doing dual revenue with sports books. Now, I'm not too privy on how close together the relationships between the sports book and the MLB and the NFL are, but I do know there is a strong relationship between sports books and the NBA. You see FanDuel, you see Caesars, you see ESPN Bets, who has a direct relationship with Disney, who has a direct relationship with the NBA and their TV deal. And that's just a problem moving forward. However, the good news is I just saw this morning that ESPN ended their partnership with Penn Gaming, pretty much ending ESPN Bets. Now, granted, ESPN Bets, it wasn't really a strong market, as they only held about 2.5% of the sports betting market from what I read a few months ago. So that's not that big of a deal. But this is 2 years into, I believe it was an 8 or 9 year deal. So this is just a major step as a precautionary measure. So I do see these subpoenas leading to, a breaking apart of the league's relationships with sports books, and it's going to lead to a significant decrease in revenue. And I'm curious to see how that overall affects the league as well as the cap itself. Who knows? Like, a lot of these teams that are working with short-term contracts are going to start to just get money off the books, and they're not going to sign guys to bigger contracts. And I think about it overall, and I think this may even lead to a serious lockout in 2029. And I've said this before, the hard cap was not the best idea. It was for parity, but the thing is, the NBA sells and leagues sell when you have villains and great rivalries. And dynasties sell because dynasties in the beginning, yes, they're cool, but as they continue to grow, they become the villains, and it's just David becomes Goliath, and you want to take Goliath out. So I definitely see something like that happening. Now, granted, this is just speculation, but I do see something like this moving forward, and it having a monumental long-term effect on all sports leagues. Now that initial call to Washington has been made, and it's only the tip of the iceberg. But switching back to the Warriors, the bottom line is they don't look like a championship team right now. The Warriors still have things they need to do to get better, and they have additions that need to be made in order to compete with those top-tier teams. Like I've said, the Spurs are here, and they're here to stay. Every single player on that roster knows what they need to do, and they have been brought up the right way. Wemby is their leader. They have Dylan Harper at the 1. They have Steph Castle at the 2. They have a combination of Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell at the 3. And then they have Jeremy Sochan and then Wemby at the 5. So they're here to stay, and they're going to be a problem for the entire league moving forward. And come playoff time, you can't have Quentin Post and Al Horford guarding Wemby, because if Wemby could hit from the logo without an issue, and you can't really do anything from there, it's just going to be a problem, and the Warriors need to make some early season trades in order to get a big to integrate them into the offense quickly, so come playoff time, they know exactly what they're doing. So, Dubs, it's time to make this trade. Will Richard has shown that he's here. It's time to move off of some of these guards to at least make additions in the right place for this Warriors team so we can see them win a championship this coming June. Now, that's all we have today for Warriors Latest. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you have any ideas on the domino effect of the NBA being called into Washington and that breakup of ESPN Bets with Penn Gaming, and what do you think is going to happen with that? Feel free to comment below, as I love hearing your ideas. And as always, go Dubs.